to be moved by Councillor John Mason, our group leader in Glasgow City Council.
Well, we'll leave the hall for the moment while they're continuing with the cultural theme, and we'll return once again to Brian.
David, thanks very much indeed. Well, you heard them playing earlier, St Jude's Infirmary. Mark Francis and Grant Campbell from the band join me, along with Stuart Maxwell from the SNP. Stuart, I presume you're not proposing to sing or play anything, are you?
No, lucky for you, no, I'm not.
Thankfully not. Now, and you can see behind me here, the other members of the band are there as well, watching on and give a supportive cheer. Go on, that's it, yes. OK, right, that'll do, that's fair enough. Tell me about the Mark and Grant, first of all. Do you think that not to be too pompous about it, is there a cultural element to political Scotland?
I think there is, and for a party like SNP to actually engage with the creative process rather than just patronising the arts or having the arts along as a backdrop is really refreshing. That's why we're here, to support that kind of engagement with the creative process.
Do you think it tends to be the case in the past? I mean, the politicians are often keen to get, a rock band on side or an artist on side, and it tends to be sort of, hey, look at me, I'm cool and hip.
It's trying to buy cool almost.
Go, Grant.
I think what's good about this as well is because, it's not looking at the big stars that are there already and, trying to get a bit of a reflected glory. It's just, really aimed at the grassroots. People, really helping people get past that hurdle, get past the glass ceiling, which has been in Scotland for too long. So
what do you mean by the glass ceiling that's been in Scotland?
Too many bands, if you want to do anything, you really have to head south. And it's always go down to London, and it's symptomatic maybe of a brain drain or things like that in the past. There doesn't seem to be just even the investment or just the political will for somebody to just work with that. It's maybe change it.
Mark, it also seems to me there's been a cultural confidence either as a precursor to self-government, devolved self-government, or as a concomitant to that. I mean, do you think it requires, would independence take it further? What difference would it make?
Well, Scotland, by its nature, despite not being wholly independent, it has always been sort of culturally independent. It's one of the ironies is it's got a burgeoning of creative talent, but the creative talent has to leave to succeed, it seems. And the purpose of the policy, which Stuart has explained, is to support artists and let them take more risks, share the risks, if you like, with the policies that are put forward. So yes, is a short answer to that.
Stuart, I've been looking through your party's policy portfolio on culture. It appears to be, as Mark was saying there, pretty well hands-off. Just cut the tax burden and leave the arts world to get on with it. Does it not need a bit more than that?
Well, there is a lot more than that. I think, Brian, you have to read maybe a few more pages before you get the full policy. But there's an underlying philosophy here. It is about making sure the arts are free to get on with what they do best. I think one of the problems has been that government has been far too interfering in the arts in the past. And that's particularly true with the new draft bill from the current executive, who've said they'll take a ministerial power over the arts. Now, we're going in exactly the opposite direction. We're saying that we trust the arts, we believe in the people involved in our cultural sector, and we want them to get on and do the job.
But don't you have to have very strict monitoring or tight monitoring when it is public money that is being spent? I recall a BBC poll on priorities at the last election, and arts spending came last.
Oh, yes. Well, polls, you can get any result from a poll you want if you depend on how you ask the question. But I think the fundamental thing is the rules are already there about how money is spent and how it's allocated, and it will be artists in charge of distributing that money. If they fail to do their duty, and there are plenty of other ways of dealing with those particular problems. If there's corruption or other things involved, then you use the police or you use the other powers that are involved. You don't need a direct ministerial power of intervention, and I think that sends out entirely the wrong message to the artistic community.
I'll ask the guys in a second, but what sort of image do you think Scotland should be projecting? I looked again at your cultural policy, and you're talking about, you say the key international asset is our distinctive identity, but you then go on to talk about Hogmanay and Burns Night rather than perhaps the contemporary indie bands that are represented here.
No, it's the full range, it's the whole spectrum. We should maximise the potential that we have in Hogmanay and Burns Night.
I've got the paragraph in front of me here. It doesn't mention modern music at all. It talks about Hogmanay, Burns Night, make St Andrew's Day a national holiday, and make the Declaration of Arbroath Day a national holiday.
Absolutely. I think you've got a small snippet of what's coming. I mean, we haven't published our manifesto yet. Okay. So I think when we do, what you'll see is all of the new policies aimed at the grassroots, because we want to see up-and-coming artists make their mark and break through that glass ceiling that was mentioned earlier.
Okay, guys. Mark Grant, what do you think about this, the image that Scotland projects, the cultural image that Scotland projects?
We've lived abroad for a little while as a band, and through the contacts we've made up just as a band, there's a tremendous goodwill towards Scotland and Scottish arts. and that's not a twee representation of shortbread tins or anything like that. There's a genuine, I think, acknowledgement of the
country our size, you know, for the impact we've had in, you know, music, modern music, all different types. You know, I think, you know, there's so much going on in Scottish culture and the music and the arts, and it's just a way of getting out to people and letting, you know, moving away from the sort of traditional views.
But without losing perhaps the
Yeah.
traditional, you not against presumably, you know, the bagpipes and the kilts and stuff like that, but or are you? I don't know.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, we're proud to be Scottish, and that's part of the tradition. But you know, it's a multicultural Scotland. There's lots of different fibres woven into the tartan now. So you know, it's a way of just getting out there and showing the world. You know.
Thanks very much. You
Things
said
like
you're proud
that.
to be Scots. I gather, Grant, you're also proud to be an Arab, and that
Yep.
you're like me, a Dundee United fan. A smile on the